Have you ever thought about, like, all the possibilities if you could speak another language?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, not just getting by on vacation, right?
Mhm.
But really, truly understanding another culture.
Like getting deep into their way of thinking. Yeah.
It's always fascinated me, and that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Awesome.
The transformative power of language learning and all the surprising ways it can impact your life. Like, way beyond just basic communication.
Right. The benefits go way beyond just, being able to order a coffee. It's like you get this key to unlock a whole new world.
Okay, I like that. A key. So let's unlock it then. What I'm seeing in our sources is this huge emphasis on connection.
Hmm.
Experiencing a culture on a deeper level. One article even said it's like becoming a local, not just a tourist.
Oh, that's so true. When you speak the language, you're showing respect,
Right.
demonstrating a real interest in their world.
Yeah.
It's like you're building a bridge that wouldn't exist otherwise.
Yeah. Makes me think about all the times I've traveled and struggled to communicate, You're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
But what our sources are saying is that speaking in the language, it unlocks a whole new dimension of understanding.
Absolutely. And that deeper understanding leads to more empathy, more connection. Imagine having real conversations with locals, sharing stories, even laughing together in their language.
That's true. Immersion.
Totally.
It's like you're not just observing the culture anymore, you're part of it.
You got it.
That's got to lead to such a richer experience. But one thing that really surprised me in all this research was this idea of language learning being a brain booster.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought it was just about communication.
Right, right. A lot of people think that. But research has actually shown that learning a new language strengthens your brain.
Really?
Yeah, like there's this study from the University of Edinburgh. They found that bilingual people did better on all these tests, attention, memory, problem solving, all that stuff,
Mm.
compared to people who only spoke one language.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I had no idea it could have such a huge impact on how your brain works.
It's like cross-training for your mind.
I like that.
You're juggling all these languages, right? It actually improves all those neural pathways and makes your brain more flexible overall.
So speaking another language can actually make you smarter.
In a way, yeah. It makes your brain more efficient.
Okay, that's a hidden benefit I can get behind.
Definitely. And that's just the cognitive stuff. Our sources also talk about some pretty amazing professional advantages of knowing multiple languages.
Oh, of course, right. In today's world, language skills are in such high demand.
Huge demand.
Yeah. One article even mentioned that companies are really looking for people who can bridge those cultural gaps,
For sure.
communicate effectively with all kinds of teams all over the world. It's not just a nice to have anymore. It's like essential in a lot of industries.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Speaking another language can open up all sorts of doors. International business, diplomacy, translation.
It's like a whole secret level in your career unlocks.
I like that analogy.
Oh.
It's not just about getting a job. It's about excelling in this global marketplace.
Exactly. And being multilingual gives you that edge. You can navigate all those complexities of cross-cultural communication.
Like a pro.
This is all so fascinating. So far, we've covered connection, brain power, career opportunities. It's already more than I expected.
And we're just getting started. There's a whole lot more to explore, especially when it comes to personal growth. How learning a language can really change how you see the world.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. One of the sources talked about how certain languages have these words that you just can't translate directly into English,
Oh, for sure.
expressing these really unique concepts that, like, we might not even have words for.
Right, right. Like, have you ever heard of the German word Fernweh?
Fernweh.
No. It basically describes this longing for far-off places, a kind of wanderlust, but like deeper than just wanting to travel.
Oh.
Or the Japanese word ikigai, which is all about your reason for being, your purpose in life.
Huh. See, those words capture these ideas, these feelings that are so nuanced. It just highlights how different cultures have such different ways of seeing things.
Absolutely. And learning a new language exposes you to all that. Different values, philosophies, ways of looking at things.
It's mind-blowing.
It really is. It
Yeah.
broadens your horizons and forces you to question your assumptions about the world.
So it's not just about learning words and grammar, right? It's about getting this whole new lens to look at everything through.
That's a great way to put it.
It sounds incredibly enriching.
It is. And speaking of enriching, there's another side to this we should talk about. The emotional impact of speaking another language.
Yes, I'm really curious about that. One source talked about this feeling of warmth, of trust, that comes from connecting with someone in their native language. It's like you're speaking directly to their heart.
It really is. Speaking someone's language lets you connect on this deeper, more personal level.
Yeah.
It breaks down those barriers and builds this feeling of shared understanding.
You know, it makes me think about all the times I've tried to speak a few phrases in another language while traveling. Even those little attempts, people were so warm and appreciative.
Yeah, for sure. It's a sign of respect, right? A gesture of good intention. And even those small interactions can have a big impact on how you see and interact with the world around you.
It's like you're not just an outsider anymore. You're becoming part of something bigger, this global community connected by language.
I love that.
And that sense of belonging, of being welcomed into another culture, that has to be so rewarding. It's like this reminder that despite our differences, we're all connected in some way.
Absolutely. But let's be honest, learning a new language, it's not always easy.
No, definitely not.
There are challenges.
I think anyone who's tried it knows that feeling of frustration, confusion, doubt.
Oh, yeah,
Like you'll never get those grammar rules or pronounce things correctly.
for sure. But, our sources make it clear that those challenges, they're a normal part of the process.
Oh,
It's important to embrace those moments, see them as opportunities to learn and grow.
I see.
One article even talked about celebrating those little victories, like finally understanding a tricky grammar concept or
Yeah.
having your first basic conversation.
Right.
Those small wins, they build your confidence and they motivate you to keep going.
Okay. Yeah.
And as you get better, you'll find that your resilience, your determination, it grows. Not just in your language skills, but in other areas of your life, too.
So it's like language learning teaches you these really valuable life lessons about perseverance, about facing challenges head on.
Exactly. It's about the journey,
Yeah.
not just the destination.
This is so inspiring. So we've talked about how language learning connects us, makes us smarter, opens up career paths, broadens how we see the world, and even builds resilience. It really is a transformative journey.
It is. And the best part is, it's never too late to start.
That's great to hear. No matter who you are, what your background is, you can unlock all these incredible benefits. But before we get into any specific tips or strategies, I'd love to dig deeper into that emotional side of speaking another language.
Let's do it. There are so many incredible stories and insights to share about how language can build those deep connections and create lasting memories. So one of our sources told this amazing story about a woman learning Italian later in life.
Okay.
She was traveling through Italy and got completely lost in this tiny village,
Oh, no.
feeling totally overwhelmed, didn't know what to do. So she kind of hesitantly asked this older local woman for directions in her, broken Italian.
I can only imagine that must have been nerve-wracking.
Oh, totally. But what happened next is incredible. Instead of just pointing her the right way, the woman invites her home for lunch.
Wow.
Yeah, they spent hours together communicating with like a mix of words, gestures, lots of laughter.
That's so sweet. It sounds like they formed a real connection even with the language barrier.
They really did. And the traveler said it was one of the most memorable parts of her whole trip. She realized speaking the language wasn't just about getting around, it was about connecting with people, like on a human level.
It's crazy how even just a basic understanding can open up those kinds of opportunities for connection, shared experiences.
Absolutely. Another source talked about how powerful language can be for bridging cultural divides.
Okay, yeah.
There's this fascinating study that showed speaking another language can actually reduce prejudice.
Really?
Yeah, and increase empathy toward people from different cultures.
That makes sense. If you can understand someone's language, you're more likely to understand their point of view, appreciate their culture.
Exactly. It's like you get access to this whole new way of thinking and seeing the world, right? It challenges your preconceived notions, encourages you to embrace diversity.
It's like that saying, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart.
Oh, that's a good one. And those heart-to-heart connections, that's what makes language learning so rewarding, It's not just about knowledge, it's about relationships, expanding your understanding of humanity.
And speaking of building relationships, one source talked about how learning a language can even improve your relationships with family and friends who speak that language.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Like imagine being able to talk to your grandparents in their native tongue.
Yeah.
Or share cultural traditions with your friends in a way you couldn't before. It strengthens those bonds.
Yeah.
And it creates this deeper sense of shared heritage.
It's like you unlock this hidden treasure of family, history, cultural connections.
I love that. It really is.
Huh.
And those connections are so powerful. It reminds us that language is more than just words, It's the thread that weaves together generations and cultures.
So we've mostly focused on the benefits of speaking another language. But what about the other side of the coin? What can we learn about our own language by studying a different one?
That's a great question. One of the most surprising things I came across in the research is that studying a foreign language can actually give you a fresh perspective on your native tongue.
Really? I've always thought of language learning as something that expands outward, connecting you to other cultures. I never thought about how it could circle back and make you understand your own language better.
It's pretty cool, right? When you learn another language, you become so much more aware of all those nuances in grammar and syntax and vocabulary that you might have just taken for granted before.
Yeah, one source used this analogy of becoming a language detective,
Oh, I got
noticing all these patterns and quirks that you never saw before.
Exactly. It's like seeing your own language with new eyes. You start to appreciate all those little details and complexities you might have missed.
It's like that quote, to have another language is to possess a second soul. Like you gain this whole new perspective on the world, including your own.
It's true. And that deeper understanding can actually make you a better communicator overall.
Even in your native language.
Even in your native language, you become more articulate, more expressive,
Oh.
more sensitive to the subtle ways that language can be used.
So it's not just about speaking another language. It's about becoming a better communicator, period.
Exactly. It's about unlocking the full potential of language, both within yourself and how you interact with the world.
Okay, this is all so inspiring. But let's be real, learning a new language takes serious time, effort, dedication.
Uh-huh.
It's not always easy to stay motivated, especially when you hit those roadblocks, which, are going to happen.
You're right. Learning a language is a journey. There will be bumps along the way.
Mhm.
But luckily, one of our sources offered some pretty practical tips for staying motivated and getting through those tough spots.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did they suggest?
Well, the biggest thing is setting realistic goals. Don't try to learn everything at once. Start small, manageable steps, like mastering a few basic phrases every day or having a short conversation with a language partner.
Right, it's easy to feel overwhelmed if you try to do too much too fast.
Exactly. And celebrate those small wins along the way. Every little step forward, no matter how small, it's a victory.
It's like that saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly. And don't forget, you don't have to be perfect to be fluent. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of learning.
One source even said we should embrace those mistakes as chances to learn and grow.
That's the best attitude to have. Another important tip is to find ways to make language learning fun and engaging for yourself.
I think that's huge. If you're not enjoying it, it's easy to lose motivation.
For sure. So instead of just drilling vocabulary and grammar, explore different ways to immerse yourself. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, even find language exchange partners online.
Oh, I like that, the idea of immersing yourself. It's like creating this little world where you're surrounded by the language all the time.
Exactly. And the more you expose yourself to it, the more natural it becomes. It's like you're training your ear to hear the sounds and your brain to understand the grammar.
This is so helpful. I'm already feeling more confident about taking on this challenge. But I gotta be honest, part of me still wonders, what if I'm just not good at languages? Like, is there such a thing as being predisposed to language learning?
That's a question I hear a lot. And one of our sources tackled it head on. They actually cited research that debunks that whole language gene myth.
So there's no such thing as being born with a knack for languages.
Not really, no. While some people might have a bit of a natural affinity, the vast majority of us can learn a new language if we put in the work and have the right approach.
Okay, that's reassuring to hear. So it really comes down to mindset and effort.
Absolutely. And a big part of that is finding a learning method that really clicks with you. Some people do well in structured classroom settings. Others prefer self-paced online learning.
It's about finding what works best for your learning style, your personality.
Exactly. And there are so many resources out there now. Language learning apps, online courses, immersion programs, you name it. There's something for everyone.
It's pretty amazing to think about all the possibilities. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored those amazing benefits of language learning, from connecting with people, boosting our brains, opening up career paths, and even just expanding our worldviews.
And we touched on some practical ways to stay motivated and find an approach that works for you. It's been a really cool journey so far.
Yeah.
I think we've barely scratched the surface of what's possible when you open yourself up to language learning.
I totally agree. Before we wrap up, though, there's one last question I want to explore. We've talked about the cognitive benefits, the professional benefits, the personal benefits, but what about the simple joy of it?
Ah, yes, the pure pleasure of discovering a new language, unlocking its secrets, being able to express yourself in this whole new way.
Yeah.
That's something we shouldn't forget.
One source talked about it as a feeling of accomplishment and empowerment,
Mm,
like you're constantly pushing your boundaries, expanding your horizons.
you are. And that sense of achievement can be so rewarding.
Yep.
It boosts your confidence and opens you up to all kinds of new possibilities.
It's like learning a language isn't just about gaining a skill, it's about going on an adventure, a journey of self-discovery.
I love that. It's a journey that's full of surprises, challenges, and ultimately a ton of joy. But just like any adventure, there are some things to keep in mind when you set out on this language learning quest.
That's a great point. What are some key things people should consider as they start their language learning journey?
Well, I think the most important thing is to pick a language that truly excites you. Don't just go for what seems practical or useful.
Right, because if you're not genuinely interested in it, it's going to be that much harder to stay motivated.
Exactly. So think about what languages really spark your curiosity, what cultures you're drawn to, maybe even some personal connections you have to a certain language.
It's like finding a language that speaks to you on a deeper level.
I love that. And once you've got your language, set realistic expectations for yourself. Learning a language takes real time and effort. There are going to be those frustrating moments, setbacks along the way.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Exactly. And be kind to yourself throughout the process. Don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately.
One of the sources, they really emphasize celebrating those small wins along the way, no matter how small they seem.
So true. Every new word, every grammar rule you figure out, every conversation, it's a step forward.
And those little steps eventually lead to fluency.
That's it. And another thing, find a learning method that fits your style, your personality.
We talked about that a bit earlier, right? Some people thrive in a classroom, others prefer that online flexibility.
Right. And luckily, there are so many options these days. Apps, online courses, immersion programs, you name it. Just experiment and find what works for you.
It's about finding that approach that keeps you going, keeps you excited about learning.
For sure. And don't be afraid to get creative. Make language learning part of your daily life. Watch movies, listen to music, read books, find language exchange partners online, all that good stuff.
I really like that. Making it fun and enjoyable, it shouldn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. And lastly, don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Embrace them, see them as opportunities to learn and improve.
It's all part of the journey.
It really is. And the more you can embrace those challenges, the more rewarding that journey will be. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of language learning, I hope you're feeling inspired to start your own adventure.
Me too. We've covered so much, the cognitive benefits, the professional advantages, the emotional rewards, the personal growth. It's been amazing.
And we've touched on some practical tips, ways to stay motivated, finding that perfect approach for you.
But I think the most important takeaway is that learning a language isn't just about acquiring a skill. It's about so much more. Expanding your horizons, connecting with the world in a new way, and ultimately discovering a whole new side of yourself.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a journey that's definitely worth taking.
Couldn't agree more. It's been fantastic exploring the power of language learning with you today. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive and feel inspired to embark on your own linguistic adventure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep connecting with the world around you.